In this episode, we're going to show you guys how we installed this 8.8 out of a Ford Explorer into the back of our S10 with little to no modifications. This truck's going to be used for drag racing, and if you saw our last video when we took it to the drag strip, the stock rear end and gear ratio really didn't work for what we needed. This setup's going to be way more ideal for going to the track and cutting great 60 foots. So let's get started.
So here's the 8.8 Explorer diff, and Todd's working on removing the e-brake cables because we're not going to use those. Disc brake. We're going to take the sway bar off and probably weld up the axle tubes while we got it apart, and then we'll toss some paint on it. A few good burnouts probably clean up these rotors just fine. What do you think, Todd?
Oh yeah.
And then got a few little goodies, some upgrades that you guys are going to see us put on this thing. Should look pretty nice and be good to go. Take all 360 horsepower we're going to throw at it. We're not really going to do a whole bunch to this thing, but we're going to weld these axle tubes because they're notorious for slipping and spinning. All right, we got the diff inside the garage. It started to get a little windy, but we went ahead and just wrapped it up. So as you guys can see, we went ahead and welded the tubes. I just got a little 110, so don't judge too bad. But they should work for what we need. Like we said, right now the thing's going to be 360, maybe 380 horsepower. So that is done. I think tomorrow we'll start phase 2 and get her scuffed up a bit more and painted. Probably get a little bit of paint on here. We'll get the rest of these old brakes off. Maybe we'll get some fresh brakes, throw them on there. And then next step will be installing a lot of these goodies. Actually, talk for a minute. For the moment. Need my wrench. All right, we've got the 8.8 back out of the garage. Obviously, you see we've got it up on the hoist here. We just lifted it up real easy. What we're gonna do is slap a coat of spray paint, some black paint on it. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy. That way, once we get the paint on here, this thing's ready to go. We can start digging into that box of goodies I showed you guys earlier. We're just gonna use some basic spray paint. We got it cleaned off, use the needler on it a little bit, get some of this grout out of here, and then just hit it with a little air. So nothing professional here, but we'll get some paint on it, keep it from rusting anymore, and should look all right. So let's see what we can do. Todd's just hitting it with some black. What do we got there, Todd? Some just basic Rust-Oleum.
Just basic Rust-Oleum for the local hardware store.
There we go. I like using that stuff. It's good coverage. I mean, you know, we're just trying to keep it from rusting more than anything else. Nice little black coverage. We're not even going to lay down any primer. We'll probably do what, 2 or 3 coats on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Nothing, again, nothing fancy.
Make it look a little nicer.
All right, first coat's on. Looks pretty good. We'll probably do a second coat, a little heavier, and call it good.
So we got the 8.8 back inside here. We got it all welded up on the axle tubes. As you can see, both sides are already done. We got it all painted. So now we're getting ready to pull the axles out of it. Obviously, we don't need parking brakes. We're going to remove all the parking brake hardware and shoes out of there. We're going to put new brakes on it. But the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to change this from a one-wheel peel, and we're actually going to make it a mini spool. So we already have a mini spool that we have. So we're going to get the axles out, get the seat clips out, and then get the mini spool put in.
Sweet. Okay, so like Todd was telling you guys, we're changing all the brakes on this, and we've got the parking shoes and this jumbled mess on the floor, all rusty and crusty. So we've got those out. We just sprayed down these bolts on the inside, and when we get those out, we're going to remove the caliper bracket and everything that holds the axle and the backing plate. We're going to throw those away. We don't need them. And then that'll allow us to get into all of this and pull that axle out. we'll have to do both sides. We'll get the axles out. We'll take the cover off and show you guys the inside there. And once we're able to get the axles moved, then we can get to those C-clips and start in on that mini spool.
Yeah.
13 millimeter, got the 10 bolts out, and now we're gonna pop the cover off. Let's see if we can get this. Yeah. Woo, buddy. So much for it being empty of fluid. Dry as a bone. So at this point in the project, we proceeded to go ahead and pull the axles, went ahead and put new seals in it, and continued to work on installing our mini spool. I'm not going to go through the entire process in this video. I actually made another video where I go in depth of how to put a mini spool in the 8.8. If you want to check out that video, I'll link it above. But essentially, we're going to kind of skip through that for the sake of this video. No sense in repeating ourselves twice. Yeah, we did end up putting a mini spool in this. We're going to use this truck to drag race, so that's what we went with. So there's a quick peek at what the finish was, and now we'll continue to move on to the next step of the project. All right, since the last time we worked on this, obviously this is the same video, but there's been a little bit of time in between. It got much colder, so we got our little heater out here, but we've got this ready for brake install. So we've just got some replacement brakes. New rotors, some pads, hardware. We got a new stainless brake line, brake hoses. We got a ton of parts in the back of the truck here. And then you guys can see I put in some new lights, so it's super bright in here, which is fantastic. So we're going to reuse the old stock Explorer calipers. That brake hose was cut, so we're replacing that. And this brake line, actually where the bracket holds it on the diff, it actually rusted through, so there was a pinhole leak. So we're replacing all that with the stainless line. So we're going to start on that first. I don't think we need to show you guys how to put pads and rotors on. Hopefully you know how to do that. We'll come back when that's done, and then we'll finish getting the stock rear end out of there and get this dude under there and show you the little things that you have to do. It's really not much to get that under there. All right. Behind me, we've got the Ford 8.8 Explorer diff.
8.8, all fully assembled.
Yeah, it looks nice. We got
the spool in there.
Spool.
We got the cover on there with
Cover?
the brace.
Brace.
We got the brakes back on it. New brake pads, new rotors,
New brake lines.
new brake lines. We had to replace a line that was cut, and we have the specific fitting that we need in the end of this thing.
Yeah,
So that way we can adapt our old Ford brake line to our new Chevy brake line.
Yeah, so let's go take a look at that part number for you guys. So obviously the whole thing we're doing here is to show you how you can simply put Ford Explorer 8.8 in here. Really, as far as the housing goes, we're just doing cleanup and making it look nice and doing some stuff. But the housing, you really don't have to do anything. The main thing you need here is this adapter. Part number 785434, D as in David.
So D is for the inverted flare. The non-D number is for a non-inverted flare.
Perfect.
Which, if you saw our video before where we had to put brake lines on the truck, we know that we need an inverted flare fitting. That's why we were able to get away with the inverted flare for ours.
Exactly. I don't know if we ever showed that, and excuse the hard brake line. It looks like monkeys put it together. It seems like it's a little long, but so at this point, let's see here, Todd. We just need to get the old one out, which I think we have one bolt left.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you guys how idiotic that bolt is, and I think we're going to have to cut it. So let's pop down underneath there and take a look. All right, so this is the driver's side. I'm trying to get you guys a good view here. This is the driver's side front leaf spring bolt. And you see they notched the tank a little bit, but it's resting right up on it right now. And there is still, well, you can't tell, but there is still a bolt in there. We might be able to try to hit it out. maybe, but I think we're just gonna cut it. What a dumb design. Yeah, there you go. There's a good view. Touching right up against the tank. So I'm gonna try to hit it once, and if it doesn't come out, we're just gonna cut it. After that, everything else is out. We're ready to drop. We're ready to drop this. Let me come around this way. Yeah. So we've got the shocks are undone. We still got to unbolt them from the top, but we're just letting them hang for now. Once that bolt, and here you guys can see it better this way. Once that guy is out, we're going to jack up the rear end. We'll probably take the wheels off because we don't have enough room. I thought we could just slide it out, but we'll take the wheels off. That'll let us lower everything down, and we'll just slide this dude over by the other one. And then we can get a real good comparison of what this differential looks like compared to that one, and you'll be able to see why that dude is way stronger. All right, mission complete. Cut the bolt. Now, would it have really been that hard for them to, oh, that's hot. Put the bolt through here, and we could have gotten it out real easy. So now we just got to punch out or pull out the rest of it from the other side. All right. We went ahead and took the shocks off just so they were out of our way. Let me move this. You think it'll be low enough if we put it on here?
I don't think it'll get us low enough.
No?
I think we need to go on the brake rotor.
No, I think we'll be fine because we'll be able to rotate it.
Okay.
So drop it down. Let's see what it does. Just watch your head. All right, the back one over here is out. I'm probably gonna have to smack them out with a hammer. This one's out. Oh, okay. That one's almost out. Keep going. Keep her going. There's 3 out of 4. You all right?
Yeah.
It's just that back one, I think, is the only thing that's holding it on.
I need this one out too.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Oh, the front one still on there.
Oh, no, it is. So it's just my side that's out. Keep going. The brake hose looks long enough. We should be fine. It's holding itself now.
Yep.
All right, raise her back up just a little bit so it doesn't fall. That's good right there. There should be a pry bar laying over there. Get behind it and just pop it down. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, current situation. Driver's side is out. Passenger side is being a little stubborn. You see it over there?
Yeah, I got it.
Perfect. I bet if you pop this back one out, it'll just fall down. We have to move the exhaust a little bit out of our way, too, it looks like. And we will definitely be fixing that battery cable. There you go. Did the front pop out, too?
Nope.
No, it looks like it's still sitting in there. I don't know if you guys can see it up there.
Wants to just fall out.
Yeah. This front one went back in. Yeah, probably have to get the pry bar on it. The back is definitely low enough to slide out, that's for sure. There we go. Okay, guys. She's down. We'll undo the factory brake line up there and slide it out. All right. Todd's zip tying the line.
Zip lining underneath the truck.
Todd is zip tying the brake line to the axle so it doesn't fall over and leak all over the place. We've got all the leaf springs out, and the shocks are disconnected like we said, so we've got it on these nice dollies. So I think as soon as he gets done with that, we'll be able to just slide it out, and we'll set it right here in front so you guys can take a look at the differences in the differentials.
All right, ready?
Yep, let's do it. All right, I'm going to lift this up a little bit, and we'll probably have to just watch those bolts back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should be good.
Yep. I'll keep it flat.
It's fine. Yep, there you go.
Perfect. All right. So there it is.
All right, the factory rear end is out. You guys can get a peek of that. And it's kind of hard to tell probably from this view how much bigger the 8.8 is. Maybe I can get a better angle from it here. Trust me, she's beefy. I mean, look at the axle tubes in and of itself. Way bigger. Actually,
So the axle tube diameters are different between the two.
Yeah.
So you can obviously see that. But the big advantage of like going to the 8.8 versus the factory one is obviously 8.8
ring gear.
7.5 inches.
Yeah.
So ring gear has a lot to do with it. But axle size, you're really limited on what you can do for axles on these. They come with a 28. You can put a 30 in there, but you're not going to get to a 31 spline stock like you do in these.
Right, that's the key, right?
And then even going from there, you can put in a 35 spline axle if you wanted to, which you're limited again in the 10 bolt. You're not going to be able to do that.
So next step is going to be, we need a few things off of the old setup. So we're going to take our U-bolts off, grab our drop blocks, and then we're obviously going to reuse our leaf springs. This truck had slapper bars on it, you see here. So your truck may or may not have those if you've added them or not. It's kind of a old school traction for leaf spring setup. Now, because it has the slapper bars, this bottom bracket may look a little different from yours. But the main thing to know is if you're going to reuse this bracket, when you go to put these leaf springs, and whether it's the slapper bar bracket or the factory bracket, because that axle tube is so much bigger, our U-bolts are wider. So you'd have to notch this out, and I'll put a picture up of what that looks like so you guys can reference it. We're actually going to be putting Caltrax on this truck. So we're going to, for the time being, use the lower Caltrac bracket to bolt everything back in. So we won't have to notch anything, but just know if you aren't doing that and you have slapper bars or factory bracket, you will have to notch this like you see in this picture here.
And then you want to make sure that you use U-bolts off the donor vehicle, just like this one's off an Explorer. So you would need to make sure that you have U-bolts off an Explorer,
right,
and not U-bolts off of a 10-inch.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're not going to fit with the axle tube diameter difference.
These won't fit. We'll get our new U-bolts out and show you how much wider it is on this axle so you can tell. But yeah, like Todd said, when you go to pull this out of the junkyard, if you're going to reuse as much factory stuff as possible, you want the U-bolts for that. Now, again, since we're doing Caltrax, we have a whole kit, Caltrac bolts, but they're the same size. They just are, I think, a little bit longer for Caltrax. Yeah. So those are a little bit of the variances. And I'll recap everything at the very end on how we're going to do this complete swap, because we are doing things a little bit different, performance oriented. So let's get this apart, and we'll start building things on here and then get that dude underneath. Okay. We've got our leaf spring bushings in. Todd went ahead and pressed in new bushings. That's something you can do or don't do, but we're under here. We're going to take care of it. The next step is spring perches. So where the leaf springs actually sit, these dudes right here, on the 8.8, they actually sit a little bit further out. Now, when you put your block in, if you're using lowering block, or maybe you're just using, just the springs, where this is located is actually too far out to line up, with the chassis. So what we need to do is this locating hole, I've actually marked it. We're going to bring this over about a 1/2 inch, which is going to let us put our block a little bit further inward, and that'll line up with the width of the stock differential. By doing that, everything will lay in nice and perfect. So we need to take a little bit of meat out of this perch, and then everything's going to line up nice. So that's the next step. Okay, so we've got those opened up. You can see with our block where that sits there. We're able to slide it over. So we took a measurement, essentially off center, and just looked over, and the other side. So that should let us line this dude up. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, to make things easy, we're going to put the leaf springs back on the truck and then slide the diff underneath and let it sit on top of the springs and get everything lined up. That's going to be the easiest for us. So get those in and meet you guys under the truck. Okay, guys. So now that we've got the rear end in here, this is the CalTrack bracket. Again, if you were doing a stock replacement, you'd be using the stock S10 lower brackets that you slotted out bigger. But since we're going to go ahead and do CalTracks, these are already fit. So we've got our U-bolts on here that are made for the 8.8. If you went to the junkyard, make sure you got your Explorer. We got our lowering blocks, everything's centered up. So go ahead and tighten these on. And then after we get those tightened up, what do we got here? We got the brake line. And really, that's the basis of it. So let's get these on, and then we'll see what we got left. Okay, we got our perches in, our U-bolts tightened down, got our bolts and our leaf springs. The housing is actually hanging now. There's no jack underneath it. We do have a small leak from our cheapy gasket, so we're going to replace that in the future. It's actually, we haven't put fluid in that yet. That's old fluid. So now all we need to do is get our new brake line. If you guys recall, we have this adapter fitting on it. So we should be able to slide this dude up through here. Money. Take our little install clip, which goes what, right there? I think. There we go. There we go. Tighten her up. Remember, we had to tighten out a decent amount last time. Well, maybe not. We'll have to check that when we go to bleed it.
Check what?
The fitting.
Okay.
Because I didn't have to tighten it very much, like before it bottomed out. So I want to double check that. But we're gonna have to bleed these brakes anyways.
Yeah.
So okay. All right, we've got the S10 back on the ground. It's sitting on a couple of Mustang Cobra wheels that I had sitting around. With the fact that we didn't change the axle width, we went ahead and just used the Ford pattern. If you want to use the Chevy pattern wheels, you need to go ahead and drill out those rotors and axles like we mentioned earlier. Let's recap what all we had to do. 1, you need to change your brake fitting out. 2, you need to oval out the perches on the differential so that you have the correct width. 3, the bottom perch where U-bolts go through, we need to slot those out as well. Anything else, Todd? I think that about covers it. Obviously, since we didn't cut it, like I said, our axle's a bit wider, so we're going to change our offset wheels. These are temporary. We've got some wheels on order that we're going to be using with our drag radials. Maybe I'll convince Todd to keep these on here to go do a big burnout or something. That'd be fun. Anyways, if you have any questions, something didn't make sense, or you have a further follow-up, be sure to comment below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys. We've got a lot more stuff coming up. In the next video, you're going to see us go ahead and install, you might have noticed it, some Caltrax and some Viking shocks. We'll show you how that's done. Thanks again, guys. Take this with what you will, but that camera is right by your face, and it picks up everything that you say and breathe. So just be conscious of that. There's a couple of videos where I could hear you. We must have been moving some shit, and I could just hear you breathing. And I was like, I'm gonna have to put some music